Let me show you how you can open up more space in between thoughts. Simply notice that thoughts are arising. Now, you're never experiencing one thought that continues. You're not experiencing a continuous thought. It's simply thought, 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 thought. Something else that I want to point out is that you're never experiencing more than one thought at a time. Now, right away, this realization can help you not feel so overwhelmed by thoughts. How can you feel overwhelmed by one thought? In your direct experience, you are only experiencing one thought at a time. It's impossible to experience more than one thought at a time. So, what may have felt like a long train of thoughts or a big thought storm, you see that you're only ever experiencing one thought. It's one thought that's arising, being experienced. And that thought has a start and it has an end. And then another thought will arise. Thoughts feel overwhelming when you are experiencing thought. It feels like it's a continuous stream of thought. It feels like you're never getting a break from thinking. So I want to help you open up the space in between thoughts. See that a thought arises, there's a start, and there's an end. Now, the end of thought one is the start of that space between thought one and thought two. There's a space between thought one and thought two. Instead of focusing on the thoughts, I want you to shift your attention to the space in between the thoughts. You're just simply noticing the space. Doesn't require any effort. The space is already here in between thoughts. You're just simply realizing it. You're noticing it. Now, by simply paying attention to the space in between thoughts, you notice that the attention has shifted from the thoughts to the space between the thoughts. Now, already this simple shift in attention allows you to experience less thoughts. You notice that there's more of these breaks or gaps. There's more of a pause in between the thoughts. It's as if you're allowing the thinking to breathe. Before it was just thought, 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 thought. Now you notice that it's thought, thought, thought. There's more breathing room. There's more of this openness, this space in between the thoughts. And what you'll notice is by keeping your attention on the space between the thoughts, well, that space seemingly gets bigger. Thought one, thought two. By focusing on the space between thought one and thought two, it's as if you're creating more distance in between each thought. That distance, that gap starts increasing. You're not trying to think. Like I said at the start, just simply notice how the thoughts are arising on their own. Thought, 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 thought. Now we simply shift attention from the thought, thought, thought to the gap in between each thought. And by paying attention to that gap in between each thought, there's a gap. There's a gap. That gap starts getting bigger. It has a feeling that there's more duration between each thought. You start noticing that there's a silence and a stillness in between each thought. The thought is the noise. The thought is the activity. In between each noise and activity, there's silence and stillness. So the silence and stillness seemingly increases. The space starts increasing. The only reason why you feel so overwhelmed by thoughts is because the thoughts are excessive. They're so close. The density of thoughts is what makes the thoughts feel so overwhelming. The density of thoughts is what makes the mind feel so loud. It's as if this train of thought was a cargo train. And when there's cargo boxes on each section of the train, each train car, that's when the thoughts feel so overwhelming. by paying attention to the space in between each thought, it's as if every other train car has no cargo. There's a gap. By paying attention to that gap, it's as if there's less and less train cars with cargo on it. There's more gaps. That train that seemingly felt overwhelming because there was nothing but cargo on it, with this practice of just paying attention to the space in between the thoughts, this train now starts looking like it's only carrying 4 cargo boxes on it. There's a whole lot more space. It's no longer feeling overwhelming. You only experience one thought at a time. Thought. And then there's a whole bunch of space between that thought and the next thought. The mind is no longer so noisy. The mind is no longer so active. It's not restlessly moving around. The thought is the restlessness. In between the thought, you're noticing the rest. So in your experience, you notice there's more silence, more stillness, more rest, more peace, more spaciousness, more expansiveness. This lightness. It's as if everything just starts spreading out. It was so dense before, so heavy, so busy, so noisy. And then it just starts spreading out, dispersing. The mind has more of a space-like quality to it. It doesn't feel so confined. It doesn't feel like there's this tension. It doesn't feel like the mind is right here in the head. By simply making this shift in attention from the thoughts to the space in between the thoughts, and paying more attention to the space. It's a very powerful practice to start opening up that space in between the thoughts. To ultimately helping you overcome an overwhelming mind. Hopefully this helps. I'll see you in the next one.